Hello, good day, good afternoon. Welcome back to Towers Take Live on Facebook. Glad you guys are here. There's a bunch of you already. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for always tuning in every week on Thursday at 12:30 p.m. for Towers Take Live on Facebook. I appreciate everybody being here, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm here to take your questions and to give my take on things and listen to your comments. And I'm dialing them up on my machine here to see what you guys are thinking about and what you might have to say. What's on your mind? Hal Love is here always, as always. Ray Gardner is here. Edwina Atwood, Blake Bryant, Jason Willoughby. Clay Ware, former Dog, is here. How you doing, Clay? Appreciate it. Good old lineman. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about as always as we enter the dog days of summer. Today is Thursday, May 30th. So we're almost to June, which means we're counting down quickly to the first days of football. Those actually begin in mid-July with SEC Media Days in Birmingham, and we'll be there as always, bringing you lots of action. Mike Griffith is down in Destin right now, bringing you all the reports from the spring meetings. Obviously, alcohol, a big topic of conversation down there. And I was able to find out yesterday, kind of ahead of all that rigmarole down there in Destin, that Georgia is, in fact, going to provide alcohol sales in Sanford Stadium for the first time ever in 2019. So I'm eager to hear how you feel about that. Ken Chipman wants to know how Zamir White is doing. He's doing great. He's doing great. He is doing so good. I am telling you what, that guy is burning up the treadmill. He's blowing out the weights. He's running great against dummies. And you know what? He might even be able to help Georgia this fall. Zeus is doing great. Hello, Jeffrey Ross. It's good to see you here. How you doing, Curtis Woodson, Tyler Stanfield? So Zamir White is doing well. We get it asked every week. He has not blown out either knee yet. And so unless that happens, he will stay on his line of progress, which is very steady and upwardly mobile. If he could run the football with his biceps, he would be in fantastic shape, but he's going to need both of those knees and they need time to heal. He will be cleared for preseason camp. And that when I say cleared, that means cleared for contact. He hasn't had any contact since he had that non-contact second knee injury in August of last year. It'll be 1 year in August of this year, which is plenty of time to be recovered. Georgia's gone nice and slow with him. Brandon Vernon wants to know how D-Rob is. Nobody's asking about D-Rob. Nobody's asked Kirby about that. I have every real reason to believe D-Rob's doing great. My understanding is he has come a long way since last season, when he was getting acclimated to play in Georgia football and to, learning the ways of Kirby Smart and blocking downfield and, being able to pick up all the audibles and adjust routes against whether it be against man or zone, all that kind of stuff. So D-Rob is coming along. I think he'll be a big factor. Obviously, that competition at the wide receiver position is going to be a big topic of discussion all year long. I think it's a great competition. You guys who tune in to me regularly, and there's a lot of you here, Burton Renfros, Marie Estelle Rouse, Sue Hopkins. Hello, Sue. Good to see you. No, Brandon, I do not have a D-Rob bell. He doesn't get asked enough. He'll earn a bell. Now, I have a Ben Cleveland bell. Nobody's brought him up just yet. If somebody does, maybe I'll get it. We may have to come up with a George Pickens bell. John Prim Williams wants to know if George Pickens is going to enroll. I have no reason to believe that he will not. I've heard the scuttlebutt like everybody else. Generally, I don't have their transcripts, and so I hear the rumors like everybody else. But we have a little bit of a baton set up, at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Dog Nation, and I'll get that baton when the guys get here and get enrolled from Jeff Sentell. And Kirby told me personally in Macon a week ago that he didn't anticipate anybody not being able to enroll as expected. Now, Xavier Truss from Rhode Island is going to be late just because his school is late getting graduated. George Pickens, I don't know the details of his situation. Obviously, he is borderline academically based on, I don't even know if you'd call them published reports, based on, internet chatter and, recruiting rumor and innuendo. But, honestly, none of us are privy to his academic credentials, so we can't be 100% sure. And so I hear he's supposed to be here. I mean, you only had 10 guys who weren't here already from Georgia's 2019 signing class. Those guys are supposed to come in, and yesterday pretty much everybody showed up. I did not see whether Georgia doesn't send a report out who checked in and who didn't. So I don't know 100% sure whether George Pickens was in that group or not. I don't think he was, but I'm not worried about it. And Georgia, I think, is going to have a great competition at wide receiver with him or without him. I mean, certainly they'll be better off if George Pickens shows up. But there's a lot of talent there. You got a lot of 5 stars. You got guys like J.J. Holloman and Kearis Jackson, who I think are ready to really step up. I mean, J.J. stepped up significantly last year. You got proven guys like Tyler Simmons, who's a real burner, probably a better receiver than he's had an opportunity to show to this point. Guys like Trey Blunt and all that. Georgia starts with running the football and throwing the ball out of the backfield, and then they try to go deep on some play action stuff. They have a lot of guys who can fill that bill this year. Tyler Simmons, I think, is very underrated. He's one of the fastest players on the team. So just to finish our conversation, I want to get your thoughts. I've got your comments dialed up in front of me so I can see what you're asking. But I'm interested in just sort of getting a sample size of how people feel about this. So alcohol is coming to Sanford Stadium. And, Tower's take on this is alcohol is coming everywhere in the SEC eventually. It's just a matter of time. I think they're just inching closer and closer to the line. The presidents are going to vote about it this week. They're getting a report from the alcohol committee that the SEC has put together. They're going to vote on that this week. Whether they vote it in for general sales this year, I doubt it. But everybody's doing what Georgia's doing. As I reported yesterday, they, for the first time, are going to have point of sale alcohol provided in the stadium. It's going to be limited to the second concourse at Sanford Stadium, the 200 concourse. Those of you who are familiar with Sanford Stadium, the 200 level is basically restricted access. You got to have a certain kind of ticket to get in there. But if you're a McGill donor, and I'm still trying to get all the details on this, McGill donors have to give a minimum of $25,000 over a 5-year period during this window right now, which goes toward facilities. I'm not 100% sure of this. Some of you guys that are McGill Society members might be able to weigh in on here. Let me know if you are. But it might not be for everybody. I think there's a certain level of donor that's going to qualify for this. But basically, they're going to have a sort of a mini beer and wine garden on that 200 concourse in the area above Gate 6. And, this will be cordoned off. Other people in the stadium won't be able to get there. They've always provided alcohol in the stadium in the Sky Suites up top because those are leased from the university and they're technically owned by the by the people who pay for them, occupy them. And then now on the East End Club, down in the on the field level, behind the hedges on the East End, where they have those seats behind there, Georgia's old locker room is a lounge, and they provide beer and alcohol. And I don't know whether they provide alcohol, liquor by the drink in there, but they all provide uh, alcohol. This will be the first time that people can, pay for it. And I understand that there's probably going to be, some kind of card that the McGill Society members get that they'll be able to use, or a lanyard or some kind of deal that gives them access. Um, we'll have to check with Connor. They say that some of the people are saying there's no sound on here. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Some people hear you, some people can't. Maybe you need to reboot or just sign off and then sign back on if you need to. But everything's working fine on this end. So that's the alcohol equation. I want to see what you guys are thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Herbst is here. I know that doesn't mean anything to you, but Eric Herbst and I played ball together at Central Cab. Anybody else from the Central Cab area back in the day? Yeah, Mini Beer and Wine Garden. Philip Jordan Wells thinks that's funny. Andrew Rhodes is here, y'all. Andrew, are you a McGill member? Are you going to be able to go get you some beer? The alcohol thing is an interesting equation. Here's the thing: I don't think anybody is hurt for alcohol at Sanford Stadium, based on my experience over 30 plus years attending that. Everybody drinks plenty in their tailgate. I guess one of the issues that the SEC is facing, like everybody else, is lagging attendance. If you see the UGA students, there's a subset of them that are late arriving and early leaving. Whether that has anything to do with alcohol, I don't know. I know some fans are the same way. Of course, those of you who are there often know how hot it can be in September, certainly the early part of the season. Sometimes once you realize what the outcome is going to be, I can understand why people want to leave. But, right now it's just donors. I feel certain that eventually everybody in the SEC will sell alcohol in the taps, just like everybody else is. You got to be carded. You got to be of a certain age. They'll probably turn off the beer, in the second half or the third quarter, like they do in the other places. If people want alcohol, they're going to get alcohol, and Georgia might as well sell it and control it, in my opinion. And whether you agree with my opinion or not, I think that's what's going to happen. Look. I know this is happening. This hasn't even been reported yet. So you got football this fall. You're also going to have basketball this fall. Later this fall, they're going to have a club area available for people to go up and get them some beer or wine. Baseball is right after that. So they're going to go football, basketball, baseball, right? The line is just getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And if it's not this year, eventually it'll be it. And it's, my understanding is 55 FBS stadiums currently sell alcohol. Tulane has been doing it from 1967, as I understand it. So, I can understand why some people might have a problem with that and be concerned about it, what it means. But look, I've seen people be dragged out of the elevators from the Sky Suites because of, over alcohol consumption. So Jim Wynn here thinks it's a big mistake. Jim, why do you think it's a big mistake? Let us know. I'd love to hear your opinion on that. I understand. Matt Talley says most people are 10 plus beers deep before they ever get inside. I don't know about most people, but there's a lot of people that definitely drink a lot before the games. Hello, Steve Middlebrooks. Good to see you. Eric Gillespie is really shocked that Tulane has been selling alcohol. Frank, he says New Orleans, go figure. Hand salute from Frank DiCarlo. So all that's going on. we'll come back to the alcoholics, and I'm looking at your comments right here, so I will acknowledge them and answer questions or whatever. Cello duels in the stands. Who would know? Philip Jordan Wells said that's a good idea. A lot of them wouldn't know. But let's get around to some other stuff. Also, Georgia's the Athens region, NCAA Athens regional baseball regional begins in Athens this weekend. I'll be covering that, providing coverage all weekend of the the NCAA baseball regional in Athens, Georgia. The number 4 seed, national seed. So that's 2 years in a row, a national seed, never been done in the history of the Georgia baseball program. 44-15. The Georgia Bulldogs will take on the Mercer Bears at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. The game's a sellout if you hadn't already got your tickets. But definitely don't give up on it. You'll be able to get in. That's a great picture right there of Aaron Schunk. And who is that with Schunk? Who knows? Is that maybe the first baseman? Anyway, so Georgia hosts Mercer, and here's an interesting sidebar to the whole baseball equation. Is apparent. So Georgia decided to start Tony Losey, right? Tony Losey, a Houston County graduate, Jake Fromm's roommate, Jake Fromm's former teammate at Houston County High. My understanding now is that Mercer is going to start a young man by the name of Tanner Hall. Tanner Hall also went to Houston County High School, and if I'm not mistaken, they won a state championship there in baseball. So I'm sure Jake Fromm will be in attendance Friday night. He's always in attendance when Tony Losey is pitching, pretty much every time. And I imagine he'll be there, and with his old teammate Tanner Hall pitching for Mercer as well. There'll probably be a lot of Houston County representation at Foley Field. Big game, big regional for Georgia. As you know, Georgia did not advance out of the Athens regional as a national seed last year. They lost to Duke in the final game that was pushed to Monday due to rain. The other half of the bracket of the Athens regional is Florida Atlantic, who is the number 2 seed, versus Florida State, who's the number 3 seed. Florida State coach, of course, coached by Hall of Fame coach Mike Martin, who's going out after this season. And, so I'm sure there'll be a win-1 for the Gipper mentality among the Seminoles. But Florida Atlantic is actually the number 2 seed and supposed to be the biggest threat otherwise. Scott Strickland, who you see there in the video that they're showing you, thinks it's a tough regional. Aaron Schunk said at the same time, I've never heard anybody say that their region wasn't tough. Georgia's is a tough region. They're all tough. What's really tough for Georgia, if they do advance, which they'll be heavily favored to do so out of the Athens regional, they will host the Super Regional next week, and they will have the winner coming out of the Baton Rouge regional, which of course is anchored by LSU. LSU, a really tough team from the SEC, the 13th seed. Georgia played them earlier this year, took 2 of 3 in Foley Field in their SEC home opening series to start the season. In fact, that guy, Emerson Hancock, lost his game to LSU, I think 1-0 on Friday night. And then Georgia took the other 2 games in what was a great series. All 3 games were really, really good. So that's getting ahead of the cart. That's what Aaron Schunk and all those guys are very adamant about is not getting ahead of the game. Other news this week, obviously, Nick Claxton made the decision to turn pro off the basketball team. Really no surprise based on all the buzz that was coming out that was coming out of the NBA Combine. He blew it up in Chicago. He measured out at 6'11" 3/4 inches, 7 feet 2.5 inches wingspan. He had 9 blocks in one of the games that they had at during the NBA Combine. Had one of the fastest agility times when they run a cone drill around the lane. He had one of the fastest, if not the fastest, among the big men. Only weighed 217 pounds, which is no surprise, but the NBA drafts on potential and not on where you are in real time. So he's gone, and that's a big deal, I think, for the Georgia basketball team. I mean, Tom Crean's doing a great job. He signed 5 top 100 players. Now he's got a sixth player that is signing or has signed, Rodney Howard, um, out of Roswell by way of the Legacy Academy, I think it's called in South Carolina. 6'10" center. He actually originally committed to Ole Miss um, and signed a scholarship, but nowadays you can get out of those pretty easy. Um, yes, Spencer Quarles said he's 6'9", should be a great addition. I've seen him listed at 6'9", I've seen him listed at 6'10". I don't know. I've seen Nick Claxton listed at 6'10", and he was actually measured 6'11 3/4 at the combine. And it appears true what they were saying about him, that he was still growing. Anyway, that means 6 new players for Tom Crean coming into the 2019-2020 season, and man, that's a major do-over right there. And they're coming off a 2-16 SEC season, so that's a lot of ground to make up. Again, I see a lot of you commenting about George Pickens and football. We will have to see how that goes. Mary Justice says, "Go Diamond Dogs." Spencer Quarles says 6'10". He's tall. LOL. Let's see here. What else do we have? David Divide. Well, John Prim Williams is asking David Wilson or McGee to start at star, and I think he means Divide. That's a great competition. Probably the biggest competition in the secondary is at the star. It could be Divide, it could be McGee, or it could be the converted wide receiver from Philadelphia, Mark Webb. But that's probably the most intense competition heading into preseason camp. I mean, I think the cornerbacks are going to be what we expect them to be, and I think the safeties are going to be what we expect to be. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to see Otis Reed, overtake Richard LeCounte at the strong safety position. That might happen, but I think Richard LeCounte is a little underappreciated for what he's able to do. So let's see what Carolyn Mitchell Peters talking about. Worst game experience of my life. Somehow got conned into going to the UT Florida game years ago in the student section. I got a contact high from the cups being passed around. Maybe figured the only thing that would make me worth sitting in all that orange. Yeah, that's funny. Mark Godfrey has a Nate McBride question. Will he get any playing time besides special teams this year? Actually, I do have a Nate McBride bell. He gets a question every week. Right now he's not in the 2 deep. He's in the 3 deep for sure. And obviously Georgia has Nakobe Dean coming in at that position as well. So we'll see how that shakes out in the fall. But I do think Monty Rice and Tay Crowder are your starters there. Those are the guys that are going to be getting the majority of snaps. They have the most experience, and I think they're going to get the most playing time there. Noon games. I mean, Georgia's going to have plenty of games. Look, let me tell you right now, that Notre Dame game is going to be night. It's going to be CBS. It's going to be an 8 o'clock game. I don't know why CBS is, waiting to make that announcement. I guess they're going to make a stunning announcement later as we get closer to it. They're going to keep their options open in case Georgia loses their first 3 games or Notre Dame does or something like that. But, Florida, Tennessee is going to be the 3:30 game, and Georgia and Notre Dame are going to be 8 o'clock game on that 4th week of the season, and that's going to be great. Philip Clark wants to know if Tommy Bush is going to be a factor. I hope so. He certainly looks the part, and Georgia needs that kind of big, tall possession receiver. They've got several guys that are going to qualify to compete for that particular position, the X receiver, I think it is most of the time. But again, Georgia's got a pretty solid starting 3 or 4 there, and then you got all these 5 stars coming in. They're going to be competing for playing time too. 101 down in Savannah today, says Shane Guy. Let me know where all you're tuning in from. Sam Hazeltine is in Charleston. Mike Jeffries just showed up. You're late, Mike. What's going on, man? We're going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. Get your questions in quickly. Can we please get a blackout game, even if it's a cupcake game? Road Williams wants to know. I don't know why. I thought for sure there would be a blackout game last year. That would, I think Kirby made it clear that he doesn't want to use the black jerseys to quote unquote, provide any extra juice for big games, because sometimes it tends to provide juice for the other guy. But the indications were that they might do that, for some of the lesser games. And I'm surprised they didn't do it last season. We've got San Antonio, Texas showing up. Thank you, Spud Haynes, for showing up from San Antonio. We know we got great reach out there. Edwina Wood is in Augusta. Katie Reagan Shaver's in Thomasville. Karen Moses is tuning in from Atlanta, but she's a Savannah girl. We know that. Tony Perez Benitoa wants to know what's my take on Zach Evans. Running back recruiting is interesting. I think Georgia will remain in the hunt, not just for Zachary Evans, but also the guy that committed to South Carolina the other day. I mean, that stuff's not going to end to the end. And you saw that last year with John Emery and Georgia's running back recruiting. Wayne Carroll wants to know any redshirt candidates. Man, I don't know. I'd have to look at the roster and go over it. Nowadays the redshirt is so different. Everybody's going to play 4 games. Kirby's made that clear. As long as they have that rule, they're going to get the guys out there and look at them and see what they look at. Hey, Josh Harris tuning in from Athens, Georgia. Good to see you. Outside my door there? No. Bulldog Rick in the house. What's up, Rick? Alarcon. Good to see you. Good to see you. We're going to have to wrap it up pretty soon. Any questions? Dogtown section of Screven County, Barry Waters says. Screven County, way on down there. Stuart, Florida, Nancy Bruce. We love that. Well, I'm actually coming to you from Bogart, Georgia. That's where I live. It's Thursday, May 30th. We're getting to the end of the month. We're coming up on, we're within a couple of months of football season. There's a St. Lucia, Florida, and a Columbus, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, Ricky Shane Roland Roro is coming in from California. Good to see you there. So anyway, Connor Riley's telling me I need to wrap it up here. So stuff you can read about at Dog Nation. We've got alcohol stories. We've got baseball regional stories. I'm about to post some stuff on the baseball regional. There's some stuff up there from Tom Crean talking about basketball and losing Nick Claxton and all that means. Jeff Sentell is headed off for some well-deserved time off. So we will continue to cover the recruiting scene. It just might not be as voluminous as it always is under the great Jeff Sentell and Mike Griffith. Daily reports by the dozens, it seems, from Destin, Florida, as they continue to wrap it up. We're probably going to see an alcohol vote before the end of the week from the presidents. At least it's going to be discussion. I'm understanding that that's going to be a heavily debated topic when it finally gets to the presidents and they get all their information delivered to them. Be sure to pay attention to the Georgia Baseball Regional. I believe it's SEC Network, 7 p.m. The Dogs taking on Mercer. Before that at noon, you've got Florida Atlantic and FSU. We'll bring you all that action live from Foley Field. I hope to see some of you guys out there. If you're there, be sure to say hey. And as always, I want to thank you for tuning in to Towers Take Live on Facebook, as we do every week at this time at 12:30 p.m. And as always, you can read my Towers Take columns on Dog Nation. So thanks for hanging out with me for a half hour at lunch today. Hope you and yours are well, and we will see you next week. Bye, y'all.